In this video, we will show how to find all the output that we saw in lesson 13, where we were talking about multiple linear regression in Rstudio. The first thing that in our notes we had results for were the overall F test, where we were looking at the fish example. How we get that is making sure you're in the correct directory first. We're going to read in our data. So a little bit different. Remember, we are using multiple linear regression because we have continuous predictors or covariates. So we no longer have that as factor that we saw in a design of experiment. We then are going to create our linear model. This is coming into play with our assumed model. I don't know where it went. But here are our four predictors and our response. So we're going to run that. And then to get that overall F test, we're just going to go summary of our model. And we're going to run that. And we see our F test and our p-value for overall F test right here, as seen in our notes. The next thing we went into, which was lesson 13E, was our estimates and our t-test. And again, you would be running the same command, a little bit redundant in our R script, but the idea is there. And we'd get our estimates, our standard deviation, or our standard errors, our t and our p-values. Remember that these p-values are for the two-sided hypothesis test. Then, in lesson 13F, we talked about interval estimation. The first interval estimation we talked about was the confidence intervals around these estimates. So if we control copy this, paste, we can get our estimates for the 95. If we want a different confidence level, maybe 90, all you have to do is change it there. The next thing that we worked on or talked about in lesson 13F is the confidence interval of the mean. So what we're going to do here is a little bit more for data structure preserving. So we're going to get a new data point, and right now what we're doing here is we're saying this new data point is just the first value. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can hold the data frame structure with these headers right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say not the first one, because the first one is the response, which we don't really have to worry about. But we're going to control copy this. And what this is going to do is it's going to put in our data. Again, this catch doesn't really matter. What matters is putting in these 3 or 4 inputs. Now with that, what we can do is we're going to take our model, it's going to take our dat new, and it's only going to take these 4 points, and it's going to create our confidence interval. And so now we get the fit, that's what we're predicting it as, and that's our upper and lower bounds. And then if we want the prediction interval for a future observation, same idea here, boom. Again, the reason why I'm doing this is because if we were to take, let's say we were going to put in our new data, let's say we erase that, and we ran this, we're going to get an error because this data is not a data frame. If you try to put in a data frame, then it will throw an error of these headers aren't there. So if I went as.data.frame, it's throwing me the error that it doesn't find objective residency. So the simple way to do this, or at least what I found the simplest way, is just to store the first observation of data into a new date and then change the values that we want to change it. In lesson 13G, we talked about the R squared. Again, if you run this sum of model L, you'll see your R squared right here. And that covers everything we've talked about in lesson 13 and how to implement it in R.